At my age, you start measuring life differently. You stop counting the things you own, and you start noticing the things you cannot replace. A quiet morning, a familiar voice, a hand you can still hold. For most of my life, I did the opposite. I measured everything in dollars and cents, in overtime hours, in how close I was to the next milestone. I told myself that was responsibility. That was love. That was how you protect the people you care about. Then, one winter afternoon, a single envelope showed up in my mailbox. It was not a bill. It was not junk. It was a letter with my name handwritten on the front, in ink that looked older than my career. The moment I held it, I felt something I had not felt in years. The quiet pressure of the past. It was the kind of day where the sky stays gray from morning to night. The air had that damp chill that slips into your bones. I had just finished cleaning out the garage, which is what retirement turns into if you do not watch yourself. You start rearranging things you do not even need. I walked to the mailbox in my heavy slippers and old jacket, expecting grocery flyers. But there it was, a plain envelope, no return address, just my name first and last. Written carefully, like the person who wrote it wanted to make sure it reached me. I stood by the curb longer than I should have, turning it over in my hands. And I will admit something. My first thought was not curiosity. It was annoyance, because for decades, letters meant problems. Letters meant payments. Letters meant deadlines. I brought it inside and set it on the kitchen table like it might bite. I made coffee. I stared at it. I tried to remember who still wrote letters. My wife passed away 4 years ago, and since then, the house has had a habit of feeling too quiet. I still talk to her sometimes, mostly when something strange happens. I looked at the envelope and said out loud, "Well, Mary, what do you think this is?" Right then, my phone buzzed. A text from my daughter. "Dad, call me when you can." No emojis. No small talk. Just that. My stomach tightened because in my family, messages like that always meant one of two things: a problem or a truth someone had been avoiding. I called my daughter immediately. She picked up on the first ring, which told me she had been waiting with the phone in her hand. "Dad," she said, and her voice had that tightness in it, the kind that tries to sound normal and fails. "What is going on?" I asked. There was a pause. Then she said, "It's Uncle Ray." Uncle Ray, my brother. The wild one. The one who lived like rules were suggestions. We had not spoken in almost 3 years, not because we did not love each other, but because pride can do that to people. "What about him?" I asked, already bracing. "He's in the hospital," she said. "They found him on the floor in his apartment. He's awake, but Dad, they said he kept asking for you." I sat down without meaning to. I stared at the envelope on the table. "I'm coming," I said. "Wait," she added quickly. "There's something else. The nurse said he has a bag with him, and he won't let anyone touch it. He keeps saying, 'Tell my brother it's time. Tell him to open it.' A bag. An envelope. A brother I had avoided." I looked down at the letter again. My hands were suddenly unsteady. After we hung up, I stood in my kitchen for a long moment, not moving. Then I finally picked up the envelope and slid my finger under the flap. Inside, taped carefully, was a small brass key. Beneath the key, in the same neat handwriting, were 3 words: "For the clock." My throat went dry, because I knew exactly which clock that meant, and I had not thought about it in decades. In my hallway, there is an old grandfather clock. It belonged to my father. When I was a kid, I used to lie on the carpet and listen to it tick. That sound used to make me feel safe, like as long as that clock kept moving, the world was still in order. After my father died, I took the clock. Not because I needed it, but because I could not stand the idea of someone else owning the sound of my childhood. But here is the part one never told anyone. That clock does not work anymore. It has not worked for years. It stopped one night and I never fixed it. I told myself it was too expensive, too complicated. If I am honest, I think I left it broken because the silence matched how I felt. I walked down the hallway slowly, like I was afraid the clock would be different than I remembered. The key felt cold in my palm. Near the base, there is a small panel. I knelt, slid the key into the lock, and turned it. It opened smoothly like it had been waiting. Inside, taped to the wooden interior, was a folded piece of paper and a photograph. The photograph made my chest tighten. It was my brother and me, teenagers, standing in front of my father's old auto shop. We were grinning, arms around each other, full of stupid confidence, like nothing bad could ever happen to us. But the paper nearly stopped my heart. It was a receipt, handwritten, paid in full. Under the amount, 2 words, time owed. I stared at that phrase, so long my knees started to ache. Time owed. There was an address written at the bottom. Not mine, not my brother's. An address across town. Beneath the address, 1 more line. Go there before he does. He. Who was he? My head spun. I stood up too quickly. Then I looked at the clock face and my stomach sank. The hands were stopped at 6:17. My father's time of death. I grabbed my coat, grabbed the envelope, and drove to the hospital because I needed to see my brother. I needed to know what I had just opened. I needed to know what I was late for. My brother looked smaller than I remembered. He always had big energy, big laugh, big opinions. Even when we fought, he filled the room with noise. Now he lay in a hospital bed with pale skin and tired eyes. When he saw me, his expression shifted. Not joy exactly, relief, like he had been holding his breath for years. Look who finally showed up, he said, voice rough but familiar. I stepped closer. Ray, I said. What happened? He waved a weak hand. I got old, he said. That's what happened. Then his eyes flicked to the envelope in my hand. You opened the clock, he asked. My stomach dropped. You knew. He closed his eyes for a moment. I put that key in there, he said quietly. A long time ago. I stared. You what? He nodded. Dad asked me to. He said, someday your brother will need this, and he won't listen unless it comes from the clock. Anger flared in me. Why didn't you tell me? I said. Ray's eyes opened, and there was shame in them. Because you were always so proud, he said softly, and I was always so stubborn. And between the 2 of us, we lost years. He reached for a small canvas bag near the bed. The nurse helped him pull it closer. That's what I didn't want anyone touching, Ray said. He unzipped it with shaky hands. Inside were stacks of letters. Not bills, not documents. Letters, all addressed to me. I picked one up. The date was from 21 years ago. Another from 19. Another from 14. Years when I was working late. Years when I was telling myself I would have time later. I looked at him. Why do you have these? Ray swallowed hard. Because I stole them, he admitted. I have hated myself for it ever since. I stared at him, the room suddenly too bright. You stole our father's letters to me. Ray flinched. I did, he said, and I thought I was protecting him. He took a slow breath, like each sentence cost him. Do you remember Dad's shop? He asked. Of course, I said. I practically grew up there. Ray nodded. Do you remember the man who used to sit on the bench outside and drink coffee? The one Dad always gave work to, even when he couldn't pay right away. A memory rose slowly. A tired face. Rough hands. Kind eyes. Mr. Calder, I whispered. Ray's eyes flickered. Yeah, he said. Mr. Calder. He wasn't just some guy Dad felt sorry for. He saved Dad's life once. I blinked. What are you talking about? Ray swallowed. When we were little, Dad got mixed up with the wrong people. One bad loan, one desperate choice. Mr. Calder covered for him, took the blame, took the beating, and then he disappeared. My stomach twisted. Ray continued. Dad spent the rest of his life trying to repay him, but Mr. Calder never asked for money. He asked for something else. He asked for time. Ray's voice dropped. He asked Dad to be there for his boy. His boy, I repeated. Ray nodded. Mr. Calder had a son, a kid who was falling apart. Dad promised he would keep an eye on him, help him, guide him. Ray's eyes glistened. But you know, Dad, he didn't just promise. He meant it. I stared at the letters. Ray whispered, and then you got busy. You got successful. You stopped coming around. Dad was alone with that promise. My chest ached. Ray's voice broke. I stole the letters because I thought if you didn't come back, Dad would stop trying. I thought if he stopped trying, he would stop getting hurt. I thought I was protecting him. The phrase from the clock rang in my head again. Time owed. Dad owed Mr. Calder time. And maybe now I did too. Ray gripped my wrist with surprising strength. You have to go to that address, he said. I was going to, I replied. Ray shook his head. No, you have to go today. Why? I asked. Ray's eyes darted toward the door, like he was afraid someone was listening. Because the son, he whispered. He's back, and he's not asking nicely anymore. My throat tightened. What's his name? Ray hesitated. Then he said it. Darren Calder. The name hit me like a bell, because I had heard it before years ago. A sharp suit, a cold smile, a man who spoke like people owed him, even when they didn't. Darren Calder. Ray whispered he found out Dad died. And he thinks Dad left him something. He thinks your father's promise was a contract. I stared at my brother. Ray begged me with his eyes. Go before he does, he said. And if you read those letters, you will understand why this isn't about money at all. I drove home like my hands did not belong to me. I sat at my kitchen table and opened the first letter. My father's handwriting was uneven, like he wasn't used to putting feelings on paper. Son, if you're reading this, it means I didn't get to say what I should have. I don't want your money. I never wanted it. What I wanted was you at the table. I wanted to hear you laugh again. I wanted your mother to see you come home before she fell asleep. My eyes blurred. The letter continued. There's a man I owe more than money. There's a promise I made that I couldn't keep alone. If you do one thing for me, do this. Go to the address in the clock. And when you get there, don't talk about dollars. Talk about time. I sat back, staring at the paper. My father wasn't leaving me a mystery. He was leaving me a lesson and maybe a second chance. The next morning, I drove to the address. The neighborhood was quieter than I expected. Not rough anymore, just old. The kind of streets where people have lived long enough to watch the world change around them. The house was small and worn but careful. A swept porch, a tidy walkway, like someone still took pride in what little they had. I parked and sat there for a moment, breathing slowly. Then I walked up and knocked. A woman opened the door. Older than me, maybe late 70s, kind eyes, cautious expression. Yes, she asked. I'm looking for Mr. Calder, I said. Her face changed. Not surprise. Recognition. Which one? She asked. I swallowed. His son. Darren. Her mouth tightened. He came yesterday, she said. My stomach dropped. Did he take anything? I asked. She hesitated. He tried. Then she looked at me again, sharper. And you are. I took a breath. I'm the man who should have come 20 years ago. Her eyes softened just a little. Come in, she said. Inside, the house smelled like coffee and old books. Warm, familiar. She led me to a living room and pointed to a framed photograph on the wall. It was my father, standing beside an older man with rough hands and a gentle smile. Mr. Calder. Beneath the photo was a small plaque, in loving memory of Harold Calder. My throat tightened. Harold Calder was gone. The woman sat across from me. "My name is Lillian," she said. "Harold's sister." I nodded. "Your father used to come here," she said. "Every Tuesday, rain or shine." "For how long?" I asked. "Until his knees gave out," she said. "Then he called. Then he wrote. Then he worried." My chest ached. Why didn't he tell me? Lillian gave a sad smile. "Because men like your father don't like to admit they need help." She leaned forward. Harold didn't want money. He wanted Darren to have guidance. He wanted Darren to have someone steady. Her eyes grew distant, but Darren was angry. He thought the world owed him for what his father went through. I swallowed. "And now?" Lillian's expression hardened. "Now, Darren thinks your father promised him something more than time. He thinks there's money, property, a secret." "There isn't," she said. "Not in the way he wants." I exhaled. "Then what is there?" Lillian's gaze flicked toward a small wooden box on the side table. "He left this," she said, "for the person who finally showed up." My heart pounded. She slid the box toward me. "It's not mine," she said, "and it's not Darren's." I opened it slowly. Inside was a small pocket watch. Beneath it, a note in my father's handwriting. "If you're holding this, you're ready to understand. Time is the only inheritance that matters. Give it." Before I could even breathe, there was a knock at the door. Not gentle, not patient. 3 sharp knocks that sounded like entitlement. Lillian's eyes widened. "That's him," she whispered. The door opened. Darren Calder stepped inside like he owned the air in the room. Well-dressed, clean haircut, expensive coat, eyes that did not soften. His gaze locked onto me. Then he glanced at the box in my hands. "Is that what he left me?" he asked. I shook my head. "It's not for you." His smile faded. "Oh," he said, "everything's for me. You just don't know it yet." Lillian told him to leave. He ignored her. He kept looking at me. "My father suffered," Darren said. "Your father promised. Either you give me what he left, or you'll regret being the hero at your age." My mouth went dry. I surprised myself with how calm my voice sounded. "There's no money," I said. "Liar," Darren snapped. "I'm not here to argue," I said. "I'm here because my father left you something that was supposed to be yours." His eyes sharpened. "Finally," he said. I took a breath. "He left you time," I said. Darren stared at me like I had insulted him. "Time? I don't need time. I need what he owed." "That's what you think," I said. I held up the pocket watch. "This belonged to your father," I said. "My dad kept it because he didn't want you to sell it. He wanted you to keep something that wasn't about cash." "Sentimental junk," Darren muttered. "My father came here every Tuesday," I said. "He sat with your aunt. He listened. He tried to talk to you. He tried to keep a promise he made to a man who saved his life." Darren's eyes flickered, just briefly. "So where's the money?" he demanded. "It's in the years you wasted," I said. The room went quiet. Darren stepped closer. "Watch your mouth," he said. I did not move. "At my age," I said, "I finally understand what matters. It isn't winning. It isn't collecting. It isn't making people pay. It's showing up," I said. "It's being there before it's too late." For a second, Darren looked less angry and more tired. "You don't know what it was like," he said, "watching my dad come home bruised and quiet. Watching him pretend it was nothing. Watching him disappear because he didn't want me to see him broken." I nodded. "I don't. But I know what it's like to miss the people you love because you thought you had time later." Darren looked down at the pocket watch. Then his voice dropped. "Why would you do this?" he asked. "Why would you show up?" I swallowed. "Because I don't want to die with the same regret my father carried," I said. I offered him something simple. Not money, not a deal. A Tuesday. Come next Tuesday, I said. Sit with Lillian. Listen. And if you want to talk about what you're really angry about, I'll listen too. Because your father didn't need a payout. He needed his son to have someone who didn't leave. The next Tuesday I showed up, and Darren did too. He sat on the porch steps, stiff, unsure how to be still. Inside, Lillian made coffee and talked about Harold, the real Harold, not the legend. Darren did not say much, but he listened. 2 hours. 2 hours that cost nothing. 2 hours that felt heavier than any paycheck I ever earned. When we left, Darren cleared his throat. So he said, next Tuesday. I nodded. Next Tuesday. He hesitated. Then he said quietly, I didn't think anyone would show up for me. Those words hit me hard. That night, I called my daughter. I told her what I had found, what Ray had done, what Dad had tried to teach me. There was a long silence. Then she said, Dad, I'm glad you're doing this. I wish I'd learned sooner, I admitted. You learn, she said. That matters. Ray passed away 3 months later. I was there. I held his hand. I told him I forgave him, and I meant it. And Darren kept coming on Tuesdays. Not perfectly, but often enough that Lillian started setting out a second mug without thinking. One evening, Darren came to my house. He stood in the hallway and stared at my grandfather clock. It works now, he said quietly. It does, I said. Darren swallowed. I never knew how loud silence could be until I finally sat in it, he said. I did something my younger self would have laughed at. I invited him to stay for dinner. And the strange thing is the house felt warm again. Not because I bought anything new, but because there was a person in it, a conversation, a shared meal. Money matters, it does. But it does not hold your hand in a hospital room. It does not sit on the porch with you when the day gets long. It does not come back to apologize. It does not fix the years you missed because you thought you were being responsible. At my age, I finally understand what's more important than money. It's time. It's presence. It's showing up while you still can. And if you're listening right now, wherever you are, whatever age you are, I hope you choose time before it chooses for you.